All I did was get the ratchet on there and it just disintegrated. So 1 step forward, 2 steps back, always. Last time you guys saw us just essentially put on some new rubber so we could exchange the rubber for a different vehicle, but now we're back in the LX and we are going to finally address the issue with the brakes and the stopping. So this thing runs brilliantly but does not stop well. It seems that some of the brake calipers or slide pins or something are gummed up. I have some rotors in the back of the vehicle that aren't being contacted. I am pressing firmly on the pedal. If I let up off the pedal at all, I mean, I'm still pressing pretty firmly. You can see it just wants to go. I think the front left is contacting. I think that's the only brake caliper that's working properly right now. So let's go ahead and get it fixed up. You can see there's just like absolutely nothing. The line underneath is just completely loose. It's not doing anything, and you can see underneath here, you can see that line is just totally loose. I guess I left it unengaged so it wouldn't be tight anyway. You can trust me, it's not working. What I've chosen to do is purchase remanufactured calipers for the vehicle. So I have remanufactured calipers, new rotors, pads, of course. We're gonna get started first on the rear wheels, take out and remove the rear calipers and do the full parking brake reassembly. All right, let's quickly take a look at the parts here. Okay, first one up, parking brake. Centric calipers. Okay, calipers. I don't know why they have different labels on them. One's a front, one's a rear. Interesting. But they're coded a little differently. Check out this defective piece of merch. I had this shirt printed not that long ago, and the logo came out ridiculously big. Let's get her dirty. Trying to remember what size properly fits in here. Love that I don't have the right size. Jack it up. Let's get her dirty. Oh, hey girl. How's it going? We doing okay, Eleanor? What a little garbage piece. Can't wait to get rid of this lug. It's gonna be nice to have these spacers off, that's for sure. All right. Look at the state of that rotor. She is grimy. When we get a new brake system on this thing, it's gonna be real nice. The wheel spacer actually came off pretty easy, 21 millimeter in there. All right, so I need to break the banjo bolt. Wow, these pads are actually like brand new. Are they used? Ooh, what's that? You know, like a gnarly looking spider on there. Little guy though. Not a big fan of the spider. Okay, there it goes. There it goes. I thought that I might have to take the rear axle out. After doing a little bit of research on mine, looks like I don't have to do that. So I'm gonna go ahead and just do the parking brake and leave the axle on for now. I'm gonna go to the other side, get the other rotor and caliper off, and then I'm gonna go grab the pressure washer and clean the heck out of this before I start taking the parking brake off. So, okay, sometimes you know the right tool, you need to improvise a little bit. There it goes. It's just nice to get this wheel spacer out of here. We don't need this compromising us when we're on the trail. Good night. As gunk free as possible. With it being so nasty under there, I'm curious how it would clean up with a wire wheel. Nothing like kneeling on some rocks. Look at that, you can see the broken bolt. Here's the bolt head on this side. And then inside this boot, is just filled with absolute just dirt. Look at that, just dirt, corrosion. Off camera, I was tackling these 12mm bolts that hold the parking assembly on. All I did was get the ratchet on there, and it just disintegrated. So, gonna need to get some new hardware for those. I did the first side already off camera. There we go. There it goes. Okay. There is the parking brake arm. There's this spring that just fell out. Get this guy out of here. And this is the lever. Obviously it goes on the back side of the shoe. So as that cable pulls the lever and it kind of expands the shoes out together. We'll need to get that off. There's a little horseshoe clip on the top here that we need to remove. There it goes. All right. Is it off? There we go. Oops. It's gone. Punch this thing on out the other side. Boom. That we can't lose. Where did that just go? What the heck, man? I'm losing parts left and right. This is the bracket, the aluminum bracket that went on the back. And here is a replacement bracket. So look at this. This is just what years of neglect look like. I still need to get this pin out. In addition to cleaning these up, getting these brackets off here, we need to get these off these arms off the braking shoe, which should be pretty easy. They just have little clips. And then I'm going to toss all these little pins. I'll toss them in some vinegar, let them soak. All right, first thing first, should be able to get this little clip off pretty quick here. Maybe just like this, actually. Yeah, there we go. Second lever is off. On to the next. Also got 2 new boots from Cruiser Outfitters. Here we go. Big thanks. Give a quick shout out to Kurt over at Cruiser Outfitters. They didn't sponsor this video, nor have they ever sponsored anything we've done, nor have I tried to get any sponsors for anything we've done over at RCR. Obviously, we are our own business and we just do this stuff because we think you guys like it. Called those guys up, told them exactly what I was doing, the parts I needed. They knew exactly what I needed. Nice and easy. Thanks to those guys for helping me get the right parts. Yeah, it's coming out. Oh yeah, there it is. Let's get this thing soaking. I'm gonna start with the wire wheel, see how it goes. Not too hot. Okay, here's what it's looking like. It's gonna be so much more smoother and easier to engage than all this. Here is what the crank arms are looking like for the parking brake. Obviously, a night and day difference. Tonight I'm gonna soak a bunch of rusty parts in vinegar, let the acid in there do the work, and then tomorrow paint these and hopefully get them reinstalled on the Cruiser and get the rear calipers on, finish up with the rear brakes, move to the front brakes, and then we'll have a vehicle that an 80 series that actually stops. All right, I just tossed a little coat of black paint on these. Is it perfect? No. But is it way better than it was? Better believe it. Looking forward to installing these later. Let's take a look again. Again, here is the painted bell crank. Here's our new bell crank housing and our new boot. Here's the left side already assembled. What we got to do is we'll have to put the pin through the center here. I'll just peel this boot off because we still need to pack this full of grease. But essentially we'll toss that pin through with the horseshoe clip on the other side. Here's the new brake shoes, and this is kind of, oops, how it will look sitting on the kind of inside the rear drum there. So first thing we need to attach the little clip onto this. So I'm going to very gently, I don't want to damage my new brake, but I do want to put this in there so I can get the new horseshoe clip on. I'm actually gonna have to look this up really quick and see which horseshoe I need to be using here. This brake system with the parking brake reconstruction has taken much longer. Broken parts, having to order new parts and wait, and really just kind of get everything cleaned up and ready to go. It's taken much longer to get to this point, so I'm excited to get the parking brake on and then the calipers, and then move from the rear of the 80 up to the front and start replacing those brakes. So let's get into it. Let's get a little anti-seize going on there. I think I need to clean out the hole here a little bit. How did this one go? I think it's like that. When I grab the lever back here, pull the lever, you can see that the brake is properly engaging. I didn't do a lot of video for that because basically it was just me struggling. Looking forward to actually moving on to the calipers in front and rear and getting the 80 going. One of the things I was looking forward to is getting rid of these 3-inch wheel spacers that came on the vehicle. Well, hub on this protrudes pretty dang far. In fact, it protrudes, as you can see, nearly 3 inches when taking into account the length of these studs that are coming out. The depth on the wheel before it hits is basically I'll just call it like 1 3/8, something like that. So when I go to put on the wheel without the wheel spacer, it doesn't fit, which is frustrating. I don't even think a 1.5-inch wheel spacer would work should I want to use this wheel, this style of wheel, which I really like. However, I could, I don't know how close of attention you guys have been paying, but I have actually some Icon 5-speed, a different style wheel, and I was able to pull off the center cap to get the hub through there. So I just knocked off this guy right here. The hub is ugly, but it fits on without a wheel spacer. This, the tire with the 6-speed on, I'm gonna put the wheel spacers back on so I can fit all my wheels. Why do I have 2 different styles of wheels? Well, at the end of the day, I got them for basically nothing. That's why I have them. They were brand new Icon wheels. Probably gonna need to buy 2 more 6-speeds because I actually have 3 Icon 6-speed wheels and then 2 of whatever this pattern is called. I think this is my favorite pattern by far. I like that. I love the way that looks. But it doesn't matter if it doesn't fit, and I really don't want to have to run wheel spacers on my rig. For now, I'm going to toss them back on just so I can get the wheels back on and actually drive it.
Later that day,
working on the old front axle, or not front axle, getting the front rotors replaced. I do the cap, and then there's actually a little snap ring there. Whoever used this or did this job before me just used RTV sealant. You can see it all over there. I'm going to go get the gasket for this, because honestly, cleaning off the other side, which by the way, I've already taken the other side off. Here's the driver's side. You can see I've taken it off, so it's just the entire assembly. Old rotor marries to the hub and then kind of all presses on like that. I just got the cone washers off. Look at all this RTV on there. So I need to clean this surface totally off. Here's a bunch of grease in there. I'll keep my hands out of that for now. There's a locking ring. I need to find the little flanges on it and knock them flat. And there's these 2 huge, like 52, what is this thing? Look at this. This is a, what is it? I thought it was like a 52 mil or something like that. Anyway, this is used specifically for taking these things off. Borrowed this one from another Land Cruiser buddy. Thankfully, I didn't have to go buy it. Okay. Whoever did this last time did not lock these in. Oh my goodness. Well, that's incredibly dangerous. So here is the star. These things need to be bent flat so these 2 rings can't rotate together, because if they do, if they like both start rotating, then your wheel assembly can fall off. I was feeling around with the chisel and I couldn't feel where the pieces were bent. So whoever did this didn't do that. Oh my gosh, it's incredibly dangerous. I mean, I don't drive it anywhere except for like around my property, but I can't believe that star lock or whatever nut, whatever the thing's called, wasn't done up. Basically now this can release. Oh, there it goes. The whole rotor came off. So now the whole rotor and this whole hub assembly is going to come out. Take a look at this, you guys. Try to get this out of the light, but I think the seal might be broken on this side. I think we might have some oil mixing with the grease here. If that's it, that means that inner seal is broken and needs to be replaced, which means I think it's basically like doing the knuckle rebuild. Now we're on to the front. As you can see, I've already removed the hub off this front assembly. Some of the footage when I was removing it was a little dark, so I apologize about that. I also did already replace the brake caliper here. So we have our new brake caliper and pads, new rotor going on, but to remove the rotor, you have to remove the whole hub assembly. So that's off right now. Here's the hub assembly. This thing was kind of stuck together with a bunch of RTV sealant, and man, some of these bolts were just really on there, especially the ones that were holding the rotor on. So, all right, we've got one hub decently clean here. We have another hub that needs some love, and we have some parts soaking. We got some grimy parts soaking in acetone, and then we have some rusty bolts soaking in vinegar. One of the oil seals was really damaged, which it was causing all that gear oil to leak into the hub assembly and mix with the grease. So I have new oil seals. I have pulled one of them so far. It actually had a pretty big dent in it. That was the oil seal that was on the passenger side, passenger front of the 80. And so we need to repack the wheel bearings. I have already done a couple of them, but I need to pull the other one out of here and then also repack this guy. I've also cleaned up all our parts. Here we have all our bolts, cone washers, lock washers, nuts, and then everything else internal. Here are those little rings with the tabs that you bend over to keep your hub from flying off, making sure those big nuts don't spin as the wheel is spinning. So, okay, all right, in there, but you kind of need something a little stiff to push on. Yeah, definitely not usable anymore. There we go. You can kind of see it popping up out of there a little bit. And then we'll get that bearing out so we can really repack that grease. It's easy to get inside it if you're not careful. All right, oil seal. And look how nasty it is in there. Let's go ahead and throw that thing away. You can see a lot of how nasty, and this one actually isn't near as nasty as the last one was. You can see where I have packed a little bit of grease in there, but I need to make sure I get all that nasty grease that's in there out. I want that all to be this nice red grease. So what I'm going to do is just take a bit of grease, put it in my palm here, and I'm no pro at this, so I'm sure the commenters might have a heyday with this, but essentially you're going to kind of roll that in there, and you can see how that nasty grease is coming up and out of there. So you want to sort of just press that stuff into the wheel bearing and sort of move its way around. And then I'll grab some towels and wipe that stuff out here periodically just to get the nasty stuff out and keep it from, you know, connecting with the contaminating the clean stuff that's going in. The bearings look like they were in good condition, by the way, so that's why they don't have any like flat spots on the rollers or anything like that. New grease in there. It's looking pretty good. Okay, or at least I think it's looking pretty good. Now that we have our bearings packed, our bearings are all packed, what we need to do is just in this hub specifically, I just need to kind of dump some grease in the middle there, grease up where that wheel bearing is going to go, place it, and then we're going to drive the oil seals in. So just glob a bunch of grease in there. It's kind of how you do it. There we go. There we go, plenty of grease. Here's the oil seal. Just gonna kind of sit in there properly. Grab our driver. You can really feel when this thing is. All right, one new oil seal seated in there. I'll grab a little grease here once I'm ready. Okay. Got our two new oil seals seated in the hub. All right, that feels good. Let's go ahead and move on to getting a lot more of this stuff installed, baby. Make sure that our seal gets some grease on it too. There we go. Get everything properly inserted in there. Whoa, looks like our backing plate is rubbing on our rotor a little bit. I think that might be the problem right there. Again, I'll be cleaning everything off here. Backing for the bearing there. Back in. Good spot. Okay, there we go. Backing plate for the bearing, and you can see there's a key at the top, so we have to properly align that. Essentially what we do with this thing is we tighten it on, then we actually back it off a little bit just to make sure that everything is moving proper. We just want to make sure that there's no play in here at all. Cleaned everything off with a brake cleaner. Now let's go ahead and reattach the brake caliper, and then we can start putting our wheels back on. Go over the top of the caliper there. Kind of feels like, do I need to push the pistons in a little bit? Got the pads on. These should be fitting right over the pistons. Well, one step forward, two steps back, always.
One eternity later.
Happy to report that we have the new caliper, new pads, new rotors, all installed on the front passenger on the 80 series. I will say the caliper and the pads were extremely tight. I just think the combination of the brand new rotor, the pads, and the caliper, I was able to get everything on and positioned with my hands. Got the bolts torqued to spec, but it was very, very tight. On to the driver's side, rotor, caliper, hub assembly. Let's go quickly do the other side and onto the blade. Don't need to go too crazy here, but do want to get everything greased, especially this kind of like outer seal here. I want to make sure that this is all nice and greased up so that it mates well with the other seal. This is all just high temp bearing grease, standard high temp bearing grease. Is it Toyota specific? It is not. Get this thing mated on. The backing plates are a little bent up, so I did do a little manhandling of them. Now let's get our bearing. We've already, repacked this thing, so let's get her in there. Now let's get our first nut. Okay, this big old socket. Hey Winston. Hey Winston, would you do me a favor? Would you grab me those blue towels that are over on the table? Thanks, buddy. Okay, make sure the rotor is nice and tight on there, but still spins freely. Let's go ahead and back this off really quick. Okay. Now there's a little bit of play. Let's go ahead and tighten it back up. Okay. And the hub is still spinning nice and free. You can use a fish hook test by hooking it on here and pulling, kind of see what your pounds are, but feeling pretty good about that. Next is this washer, which also has a similar key on it. This is also the washer that you bend once it's on here. And I'm actually going to go ahead, take a look. I'm going to go ahead and bend that little key down. I'm going to add the other nut first. I'm going to bend one backwards, one forward. The reason that this exists is theoretically, if these nuts came together, they could loosen together, and if they both loosen together at the same rate, you could lose your entire hub and wheel assembly and have your wheel fly off. The only thing that would be holding it on would be the caliper. So that's why we install that, and we bend the tabs on that locking piece so that that can't happen. Moving nice and free. All right, looking for flat spot. I'm gonna bend this one backwards. Now I'm gonna bend one forward. Just bend this guy forward a little bit. Here. There we go. It's like push it forward. There we go. Now that one's bent forward, one's bent back, there's no way for those two nuts to spin together and potentially come off. This is our OEM Toyota gasket. Rather than covering this thing with RTV, you can see the little groove where it fits. My little circlip pliers here, and put it on there while the groove is still exposed. There we go. Let's go ahead and grab our anti-seize. And I don't need much on the cone washers, just a little bit, because they can be a little bit of a bugger to have them actually release. Now let's go ahead and put our washers on, and then our nuts. Right, okay, 25 foot-pounds. There we go. All right, 25 foot-pounds on those. There we go. There we go. That one moved, last one moved a little. Everything torqued to spec. Last thing is to put on the little cap here, grease cap. We just lightly tap that sucker on. And now, let's go ahead and put a little anti-seize on our caliper bolts. And then once it's on, I'm gonna go ahead and, you know what, I actually might go ahead and just hit this with the brake cleaner really quick and then put some gloves on. All right, let's make sure that anything that got gunk on there is just getting cleaned off. We obviously don't want any grease or anything getting on our pads. Pretty tight on there. Oh my gosh. I don't even think that's helping. Everything was so tight that I was having to try to use a mallet. Obviously not ideal. I mean, that would create so much heat when you're bedding in those pads. I mean, you shouldn't be having to knock them on there. So luckily I had a set of like Denso pads in my garage. And so it just turns out that these Power Stop pads that I bought for this rig, they're probably 1 mil thicker when you combine both pads than these Denzos. When I went to bleed the brakes, I couldn't get any fluid coming through the vacuum bleeder in the system. So it's just showing that there is some kind of block in the brake system that's preventing the fluid from going from essentially the master cylinder up front all the way to the rear calipers. I did try both calipers in the rear just to see if I could get that fluid coming through. I can get a tiny amount coming through, but not like it should. Unfortunately, I was hoping at the end of this video that I'd be, locking up the brakes on a gravel road so we could just see the 80 stopping well, but it looks like we have a little bit more work to go. I think the problem is likely in that aftermarket brake booster that the previous owner put in here. If the push rod on the brake booster is too long, essentially that'll give you hard pedal and it'll prevent flow of fluid through. So I'm going to replace that brake booster with the OEM takeoff that I was able to acquire. So we're going to do that next, but for the time being, we've done a lot of work on the Cruiser. I think we're moving in the right direction, and let's see what we have next in store for us. If you've hung on this entire time, would love it if you guys would obviously subscribe to our channel. That'd be great, but even more, if you need radio gear for your rig, for your company's rigs, let us help you out at Right Channel Radios. We'd love to help you out with either CB, GMRS, or other radio gear. Thanks. Have a great day.